Welcome back. Joining us now is Dr. Michelle Malkin, East Carolina University Assistant Professor of Criminal Justice and Criminology. She is the director of a gambling research and policy initiative, which will assist in understanding gambling trends in North Carolina and throughout the United States. And it's so nice of you to take time with us. Welcome to the show.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Well, I do want to get your background. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself over at ECU? What's going on?
Sure. Well, you did a good introduction to my background. We have been developing the Gambling Research and Policy Initiative here at ECU for about the last year and a half, but we've been very busy doing a lot of research already within the state of North Carolina and beyond, looking at how gambling impacts certain communities, how it might impact some people at different rates than others, as well as just understanding where resources are most needed within the state and beyond.
You know, this is, I guess it's been a while now here in North Carolina, but I remember there was absolutely no gambling in this state. And then the education lottery, of course, and then they've expanded since then. So as you go through some of these numbers and the studies you're looking at, what are you seeing? I mean, has gambling addiction, for instance, gotten worse over that period of time?
Well, it's hard to say that gambling addiction has gotten worse and also that gambling didn't exist. So forever, we didn't have legalized forms of gambling, but people have always gambled. And so there have been a lot of people who have suffered from gambling related harms, including gambling addiction, which is called gambling disorder in the DSM, forever. But now we're definitely starting to assess for those things and understand more so how many people are actually struggling with gambling related harms. Here in the state of North Carolina, we've seen the average be somewhere between 5 and 5.5% of all adults, regardless of where they are in the state, who are suffering from some gambling related harms. It takes time after legalization to really know how that might develop into gambling disorder at higher rates. So we're busily looking at those types of rates. We haven't really done a full state gambling prevalence study that looks at actual gambling disorder for a long time. So we're going to be doing one of those studies within the next year. That will really tell us where our rates are. But we have looked at it among some populations. For example, we've been doing a study among UNC undergraduate students, and we started that study before sports wagering went live so that we could see what was happening with the college students here in the state of North Carolina. And what we found especially alarming was that about 13% of our college males were already suffering from at least one gambling related harm, which indicates that they may be on the road to developing gambling disorder. Gambling addiction in a sense, is having suffered from multiple gambling related harms over a period of time to the point where it actually impacts your life and you keep gambling regardless of those negative impacts on your life.
So when you take a look at this, and there's really so much here, the person that may fall into that category and they have issues with gambling, what lures them in? Or what is it about themselves, their own personality, that just can't get them to walk away after losing a lot of money?
Yeah, nobody places their first bet thinking they're going to go down a road of addiction. It is not something that we're even taught to know what the signs are, just like you just asked. So most people, when they suffer from their first gambling related harm, they didn't realize they were even susceptible to that. But what happens is for some people, and there's no specific trait that results in this, the reward pathways in the individual's brain, their neurotransmitters, things like that have been impacted by gambling. And they want to keep gambling because they need to keep that dopamine going, and or they have suffered from losses and they start to chase those losses because they think they're going to get another big win because they've personally gotten one or they know of somebody else who has gotten one. And we call that the gambler's fallacy, where somebody's gambling causes problems in their life, whether they're social or economic or even legal. But the way their brain starts to understand this is, well, if I keep gambling, I can fix all those problems. And so it is actually a natural progression of gambling disorder. And yet nobody realizes that they're going to be susceptible to that. It just kind of happens over time.
And it must be so frustrating for those on the outside looking in, because it seems reasonable to most of us to say, just stop. But to them, it's real, isn't it? You know, you talk about them, and it isn't just an individual harm that is done. I mean, yes, you might ruin your life, but you're ruining other people's lives. Have you looked at that, the impact on families?
Actually, a lot of research is being done on affected others. We just recently had a publication on that. And that is that we know that the average person who gambles and ends up developing gambling disorder impacts about 6 to 7 people in their life. Most most of them are their closest relatives or their spouses, kids, parents, but it can also be employers, close friends, anybody who is potentially being impacted by this person's kind of inability to control their gambling, the financial ruin they may be having on themselves and their family, and potentially some of the acts that they do that are really out of their personality, which over 50% of those with the most severe forms of gambling disorder will commit a acquisitional crime related to the fact that they run out of legal avenues for money, but they have to keep gambling, either to keep gambling because their brain's telling them to, or to try to make up the losses that they have had. And they don't really see it as a crime initially. They see it as borrowing money so that they can get that win and put the money back and fix everything else in their life at the same time.
And of course, we know that seldom happens. Unfortunately, the house always seems to win.
The house does win, and it's just this false thinking that happens as part of the gambling disorder.
For those who may find themselves in the words you spoke today, what should they do?
Well, the best thing they can do is follow the advice of calling 1-800-GAMBLER to get into the gambling hotline and start the resources available. Whether you're somebody who is being impacted by gambling by your own gambling or somebody else's gambling, there are resources available, including free counseling here in the state of North Carolina, that they can get connected with. But the most important thing is that the individual who has the issue with gambling has to recognize it for themselves and want to receive help. And in order for them to do that, it's really important that you talk to that individual, tell them that you're thinking, they're struggling with gambling, and let them know that you care about them. And when they're ready to stop gambling, you're going to be there for them. It's really important, just really quick to say, not to give people bailouts. They have to really suffer from their own ways of what the kind of financial kind of holes that they've built in their lives.
Really do almost have to hit the rock bottom to see the light sometimes.
Rock bottom looks different for every person. And I hate to see rock bottom actually hit by people with gambling disorder, because it's either the commission of one of those gambling motivated crimes, or we know that 1 in 5 will attempt suicide. So our goal is to actually try to recognize people with gambling disorder or who are going down that pathway and actually try to do prevention versus getting them to the point of rock bottom.
Dr. Malkin, thank you so much, very much. A lot of good information. I appreciate it. Thank you for being here, and thank you for watching. We hope you've enjoyed today's show. If you have any questions or would like to know more, visit our website at RaleighCW.com and myrdctv.com. I'm Bill LeMay, and thank you for watching Community Matters, and we'll see you next week.